must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We're doing Chapter 5, The Whomping Willow. And we have Molly here.
Hello, everyone.
Coming off of our big 4-person extravaganza.
Woo woo.
Hopefully you all enjoyed those 2 chapters.
So fun.
So this is a really cool chapter, I think, for a couple of different reasons. But I had to start off with, we're leaving the Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had the thought of the Burrow or Hogwarts.
Ugh.
Where, I know I'm starting big. I'm
You
throwing
are.
a big thing out
This
there right
is
away.
Big.
But we've just got a big taste of the Burrow and how life is at the Burrow. And the whole first book, we're learning Harry's thought process of living at Hogwarts and how that's home. Like his home away from home. And then we get an actual home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's kind of that thought process of the Burrow or Hogwarts. Where would you rather spend some time? Like if you could go to either, which one would you prioritize? Obviously both is the answer to that question.
For sure.
But which would you prioritize? Which would you want to get to more and spend more time in?
That's such a hard header, Dan. Right out of the gate. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think where I'd go first would be the Burrow.
Yeah.
I'm just such a Weasley fan. I think everybody knows that by now. I don't know. There's just something very attractive, like, about that house. And, like, I don't know. I'm a big family person, too. So I think the idea of just being in this, like, cozy little rundown, but, like, homey place, you know, by the fire with, you know, Mrs. Weasley, like, that's, I don't know. That's super attractive to me. So.
She says as she's sitting here knitting.
I am. I'm channeling my inner Mrs. Weasley.
So you're of the mindset of listening to Celestina Warbeck and tossing gnomes is really where you're going?
Yes, especially the gnome tossing part.
Really want to lean into the gnome tossing?
No, I think really I just want to have one to hang out with.
Interesting. We'll come back to that. No, I think I agree with you as far as like the people involved. I think it would be such a fun experience just hanging out with all of the Weasleys. Mm-hmm. and having Hermione there and and just all of the transient people that come in and out of the house.
Yes.
I think it'd just be a really, really cool kind of experience and kind of a vibe.
Right.
I will say, though, that if we're taking people out of it,
the
castle presents more awesome, cool things to explore that you don't need anybody else for. You can kind of like, Harry at Christmas, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
Let me just wander around and explore, and there's some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought of it as kind of a cool question as we're leaving the Burrow for this chapter. So let us know what you guys would pick: Burrow or Hogwarts. Who do you pick?
Yeah.
So as they're leaving, Arthur Weasley brings back out the car, which is a little surprising. I get the necessity for it for a couple of different reasons, but I can't believe they convinced Molly Weasley, like, yeah, let's pull out the car after the whole extravaganza of getting Harry out of his house. But yeah, the idea of a magically expanded car for a guy that takes a lot of road trips, that's so amazing.
It's clutch.
Trunk space is awesome.
Yeah.
And I like Harry's thought of like, how are we going to fit like all of these people, all of these big trunks, all of the bird cages, the owl cages and stuff like that. It's like, there's no way.
Right.
I've been in that car. Look at our Instagram. My first picture on our Instagram is me in that car. And I can barely fit in the front seat. So, and you know, I am very tall. I get that.
Yes.
But so is Ron. So are the twins.
They are.
They're taller individuals. So, yeah, I can't. Did they say like 5 of them were sitting in the back
Yeah,
seat?
because it was Percy, the twins, Harry,
And
and
Ron.
Ron. And then Ginny and Mrs. Weasley in the front. What I thought was interesting, too, is the park bench. Like, that doesn't sound too comfortable.
No. The other thing I thought of was like, Mrs. Weasley is like, oh, this is so much more roomier than it looks out from the outside. I'm like, Molly,
Right,
come on now.
right,
You're in a flying car.
right.
You
know he tricked that out.
Yeah. Arthur's got some tricks in the bags. Don't underestimate Arthur.
Right, right.
But,
Ooh, what if you had a Pimp My Ride Wizard edition?
Wizard edition? If you're not familiar with Pimp My Ride,
Sorry, we're millennials here.
that was an MTV show?
Yes.
Which was
I'm
awesome.
So sorry, Dan.
I really did not expect this to take a Pimp My Ride turn, but I'm kind of enjoying it. So, yeah, it was Pimp My Ride, and even going further back, Cribs.
Ooh, yeah.
Burrow on the Cribs?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Cribs Wizard Edition.
I was just about to say, I think we were about to go to the same spot. Could you imagine Molly and Arthur taking you around the Burrow in like an episode of Cribs?
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
I really want that now.
I know.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah, the Weasleys, per usual, have, like, speed bump after speed bump, and they keep having to go back to the Burrow to get different things. With that many people, it's amazing they only went back, like, 3 times or 4 times or however many times they did.
Yeah.
At least Harry didn't forget Hedwig this time.
Right.
They finally get to platform 9 3/4. They kind of rush through. I understand why Molly goes with Ginny. I kind of wonder why Arthur didn't, like, hang back and just make sure everyone got through.
Right. Yeah. It was...
Like, I don't know why he had to go with the twins, or maybe to make sure they didn't, like, blow something up on the other side.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously Harry and Ron get blocked by the door. And then they come up with this brilliant, just stunningly educated idea to fly the car to Hogwarts.
Right.
In broad daylight.
Yep.
After what they all went through just a couple of weeks ago. I'm assuming it's a couple of weeks ago, right? There's a time jump. There's a little bit of a time jump.
I feel like there is, yeah.
Yeah, because he spends like a month there, right? He spends like a full month.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after they went through a couple of weeks ago with Molly Weasley, this is their idea.
The genius idea.
Okay. Yeah. We can get into it a little bit more in the spoiler section because I have some thoughts. But
yeah.
And I know I've been criticized on this podcast for saying that Harry and Ron have had some really, truly brilliant moments. We're just like, come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But I was not alone in thinking that this time.
No, you weren't. I was on the same page with you, Dan.
Yeah.
I just, you know, with what you said, going back to Molly's reaction to begin with, and then like, I mean, but I guess too, like, you're young kids, you're making a panic decision.
Panic does do some crazy things to your mind. I will give them that.
Yeah, but still, like, this was a moment where you're like, where's Hermione? Where's Hermione to just pump the brakes on this whole scenario?
It's
yeah.
I get the panic, and I get the whole being late thing, and that's scary because I know when I was a student, I was almost never late to class because I hated being late to class. Forget the start of term feast and the whole thing.
Right.
But you gotta think Molly and Arthur are gonna get back there some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I do enjoy the car ride over. And it's a very realistic, like, oh my gosh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And then like 2 hours into the journey, they're like, I'm hot. I need something to drink. I have nothing to drink.
Mm-hmm.
This is now not as fun as I thought it would be. It's a very realistic, like, roller coaster arc.
Right.
I don't know why they just don't let Hedwig out and let her fly. Especially what happens when they get to Hogwarts finally.
Right.
And of all of the places that they could possibly land, they land in this ancient Whomping Willow tree that takes particular enjoyment in just beating things.
Beating, yeah.
I mean, its branches literally end up in, like, gigantic clubs.
Yeah.
But the car kind of reminds me a little bit of Wizard's Chess, especially what happens right after they land.
Mm-hmm.
In that, so in Wizard's Chess, you have inanimate objects.
Right.
That are, like, magically made to interact with you and respond. And if you're not doing correct moves and you keep doing them over and over again, they'll just flat out refuse.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's happening with the car.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like, it's an inanimate object, obviously.
Right.
But it's like, what are you two doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're done. Get out of here. I'm on my own. Like, forget you guys.
Yeah.
It was just is this, like, magical artificial intelligence or something of, like, and how does that happen?
Yeah. No, I very much like that the car has its, like, own personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, yeah, it just gets...
Just a weird side effect of magic?
Right. Well, yeah.
Because it's not like Arthur was like, I need this car to talk to me on, like, long journeys or whatever.
Right. Well, I guess, too, it's, like, that whole Muggle artifact thing. Like, whatever magic you put into it, it's gonna...
Or is it just things that aren't intended to be magical? And
Maybe.
You're putting magic into them, and then they have, like, a reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's very, like, that's a
At least in the case of the car. Because the chess pieces, I'm assuming that's a specific form of magic.
Right.
Whereas the car, this seems different from the chess pieces.
Right.
But also similar.
Right.
At least in my head.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's, like, a super interesting topic to go down because...
And like you said with Arthur's job.
Right.
And having so many spells and jinxes and hexes put on regular objects that shouldn't normally have those things put on them. And then all of it going horribly, horribly wrong. So I don't know that maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know why a teapot in a Muggle world would react so poorly, and a wizard teapot would just do its job perfectly. I don't know why that would be different.
Right. I don't know.
Unless it's a specifically manufactured wizard teapot. I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. It's made with magic, therefore it is. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever. Food for thought. Yeah. I don't know really if there's an answer to any of that, but
who knows? It's an interesting topic to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something that I thought of that was kind of weird. So, you weren't the only one to agree with me that this was a dumb decision by Harry and Ron. Snape, McGonagall, and Dumbledore all were very confused on how they came to this logic of this is clearly the best option for you.
Right.
Which, selfishly for me, gave me a very, like, satisfied reaction while reading it. I'm like, finally, someone's telling them, you're an idiot.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But, with that being said, I do have to admit that when McGonagall started presenting alternative options, she presented the, like, well, why didn't you just send Hedwig?
Right.
Like, you had Hedwig, why didn't you just send Hedwig to us? And when I read that sentence, I'm like, you tell them, Minerva, you tell them. And then I thought about it for a half second after I read that sentence, and I'm like, it's not like sending owls is the most foolproof way. And, I mean, you just had Dobby in chapter 2 tell you that he was stealing your letters for an entire summer.
Yeah.
So why couldn't he just do that again?
That's a good point.
Or another entity just do that again? It's not like it's a very safe, foolproof way of like, this will definitely get through.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, yes, that is an option that they certainly should have at least tried.
Yeah.
But also it's like, okay, well, that probably wouldn't have worked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if platform 9 3/4 is being blocked, maybe a more elaborate way of communicating might have been needed.
Yeah.
So I caught myself in kind of this like, yeah, Harry and Ron, how dumb do you have to be to think this is the best option? And then I was like, oh, well, some of their other options probably weren't going to work then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that's the Minerva, Ravenclaw part of her coming out, like that logical, like, just send a letter,
Well, to be fair, there's spoiler parts of this that we can get into.
Yeah.
As to why that specifically might not work.
Yeah. For sure.
Which we can get into. But, so I had a very conflicting, like, literal minute where I read the sentence and I'm like, yes! And then,
yeah.
kind of moment.
Right.
But anyway, I highly enjoyed even Snape just being like, you guys are idiots.
Yes. What would you have done, Dan?
If I was them in that situation,
Yeah.
Truthfully, I would have waited for Molly and Arthur.
Yeah.
To come through and just trusted in that. Because if they had an issue coming back through platform 9 3/4, then I have two adults that are witnesses to hey, there's a problem here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're not the only ones that came through platform 9 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many wizarding families came in and out of there, so they wouldn't be the only ones trying to get out either.
Yeah.
So it won't be a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have just waited probably and been like, okay, I'm probably going to be late, or at least I missed the train. Well, the train's gone now, so that's not an option.
Right.
So maybe, Molly and Arthur can write a letter or get me there somehow, or they can figure out a way to drive the car so it's not on me like 2 times in a row, or what have you.
Yeah.
Would have probably been how I handled it. I would have just waited for them. How about you?
Ooh, I probably would have waited too. But what came to mind for me is that platform, does that go out? Like, you can get in, but can you get out that same way?
I would think so, because it's a gateway, right?
Yeah. Or would it create a traffic jam?
It probably would. We never hear of it. Although, logically speaking, I'm sure there's people that run into each other all the time. Especially just going in. Like, how are you, especially if you go at it with a run? Right. Like, how are you not running into somebody on the other side?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that is a fair question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless it, like, you come in one way and then you go through it, but you come out somewhere else, or it's like some magical little, like, transportation thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's a fair question.
Yeah.
But you would have also waited for the most part?
Yeah, I probably would have waited. I honestly, too, I might have sent an owl as well. I would have done both. I just would have been like the good kid just sitting there like, I would have panicked,
but I would have opted for patience.
Yeah.
And especially how young they are. Well, and here's an example of Ron probably being a bad influence on Harry. Mm-hmm. And that if Harry was just probably alone, he probably would have waited.
Yeah.
But since Ron was like, I know magic, I know these things, we can do this.
Right.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get more Snape taunting in his office, which his office was exactly how you'd picture Snape's office to be.
Oh, yeah.
Dank, dark, cold. Halfway down to the dungeons, or closer to the dungeons, which would just be a depressing place to be.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would opt for that, but, hey, whatever.
Okay.
And then Dumbledore's disappointment versus anger.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting theme of just, like, it's that father figure that they don't get mad, they just get like Arthur. I could feel like this would be worse for the twins.
Right.
If Arthur was, like, if he had reacted in a very special way anyway to them taking the car. But if he was more disappointed in them than angry, I think they would have felt much worse.
Yeah.
But it's just that I take it as a fatherly thing of just like, I'm so disappointed in you right now. I expected better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that crushes my soul. Why can't you just yell at me for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And that would be better. Like,
there is something about like with your parents, like the disappointment versus the anger.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're just like, oh, yeah, you're right. That was dumb. I'm so sorry.
and I'm assuming it's like 100 times worse with Dumbledore, considering like
Oh yeah.
his position, his stature, his reputation,
Mm-hmm.
and he's at, darn near perfect. And he's like, you guys clearly aren't. Be better.
Be better.
That kind of whole thing just kind of struck out to me as like a palpable, almost I could feel that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then the plate just refilling with sandwiches. But this goes back to our conversation about food that we had in one of the previous episodes.
Yeah.
Of like, she conjured a plate with sandwiches and drinks that presumably refilled themselves.
Right.
How did that work?
Right.
Is she just conjuring stuff that's already in the kitchens? Did she conjure a spell that let them know in the kitchens, like, hey, we need food here, just keep refilling this?
Yeah.
Like, how did that work? And I know I'm probably looking way too far into it because I'm pretty sure JK didn't intend anybody to look this far into this detail. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but wouldn't that be a wondrous life?
Oh my god, that would be awesome.
It would get me in a lot of trouble. It would get me, I would have to work out constantly. But,
well, you could sit there. You could be on an exercise bike and just keep conjuring sandwiches as your fuel while you
it'd be very useful if you're running like ultra marathons.
Yeah.
And just having like food to like, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh man. Anyway. All right. There is some stuff in the spoiler section that we want to get to. We've already kind of skirted one of those things. So we'll pause right here, take a break, and we'll be back with spoilers.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
All right. So we are back from the break. And I just wanted to kind of double back to the whole closing of platform 9 3/4. And, we kind of skirted the spoilers there in the non-spoiler section. But my reaction to what McGonagall said as an option is like, yeah, it's a very logical and obviously the right way to go with it. But we've already had Dobby stealing letters, like I mentioned. Mm-hmm. And spoilers, he's the one that did the magic to close platform 9 3/4. So he's there, or near there, or wherever. I don't know.
Yeah, where is Dobby? Like, how did he do that?
So I imagine his magic has got to be quite substantial.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Right.
Like, he's got to be extremely powerful, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, and truthfully, I don't know if that's all house elves, or if he's just particularly talented.
Right.
I don't know. I would assume it's all house elves are generally very magically powerful.
Right.
But yeah, so if he's powerful enough to close that passageway with wizards everywhere, presumably trying to get in and out, I'd assume.
Right.
That in the few minutes that they're there, at least somebody would have tried to come out as the train is leaving.
Right.
That's got to be a powerful form of magic. So the idea of sending a letter, he already stole summer's worth of letters. That's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
And McGonagall's not aware of any of this.
Right. That's true.
I'm not. I don't think Dumbledore knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's clued in to the role that Dobby's playing in this whole thing yet.
Right.
So, not again to say that there are other options that they could have had that would have been successful. Like we've mentioned in other episodes, Dumbledore is not going to let Harry not be at Hogwarts. Like, Harry's going to be at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
So, as powerful as Dobby may be, I don't think even he can stop that from happening. So, it's going to happen. Which, again, Harry isn't aware of. So, he's just in this panicked mode of, like, no, I could wait here. It's fine. It'll all be good. Like, I get it. But that was just kind of my thought process on the whole.
Yeah.
McGonagall and Snape and Dumbledore being disappointed, but like, what were they really going to do? Just them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had no real course of action
Right.
available to them other than waiting
Right.
for an adult to help them. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the whole Dobby thing with making his mark very early, even though we don't know it's Dobby here?
Right. Right.
He's playing a big role.
He is. Yeah.
As you wear your Dobby socks, I think. Right?
Yes, I have on Dobby socks tonight.
Appropriately themed.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. My dog stole him one time. He like picked him up. He was like running. Sorry, this is totally like out of left field, but he like picked him up and he had it like one hanging out of his mouth and he was running around. I'm like, you got
Molly, is he trying to be free? Is that what you're telling me right
Maybe
now?
He's trying to be free.
You gave him socks. That counts, right?
I know, right? Sorry.
Side
It was
tangent.
totally out of left field. I just had that image pop up in my head. I was like, oh, Odin stole my socks. My Dobby socks.
One of these days for Halloween, you should just put like an old pillowcase like around him and give him a sock.
Yes! Oh, yes! It'd be the best day of his doggo life.
It'd be the best day of your life, taking like 1,000 pictures of him.
Yes.
Hey, actually do that. We'll put it up on our Instagram.
All right, I will.
Anywho. All right. So
Master has given Odin a sock.
Oh man,
boy.
that Instagram post is gonna be great. So anyway, other spoilers that we can get to. Snape catching them and that conversation that they have initially in the dungeon before McGonagall and Dumbledore get there, I think is really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They have that notion that he's reading minds again,
Yes.
which, truthfully, well, obviously it's not reading minds because he read it in the Evening Prophet. So even though they're getting the feeling that he doesn't have to here because what they did was so obnoxiously obvious.
Right.
But there's still that seeding that, hey, Snape is reading my mind or figuring out my emotions or figuring out whatever. He's got an extra sense available to him, which is just interesting, even though, I don't think he even bothered to.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't think he's, Snape's not at the point yet where he has to up his level of magic to try to get anything out of these guys.
Yeah.
So, but you can kind of see also Snape kind of comparing Harry and Ron to James and Sirius, even though you have no idea. If you're reading this for the first time, hopefully you're not listening to the spoilers, but
Yes.
if you're reading this for the first time, they're completely lost on you.
Right.
Because obviously Dumbledore mentions that Snape knows his father, and it was not exactly the greatest relationship. But we don't know the details that we do later, which get into very specific events. But you can kind of get that sense that Snape is just completely, you are your father. You are that idiot best friend that he had. You are whatever. Right. I'm using Snape's words. I don't think Sirius is an idiot. But they did do some stupid stuff too back in the day.
Yeah.
As talented as they were, they did some dumb stuff.
That is a very James and Sirius move.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Anna mentioned it in a previous episode. And forgive me, because it's been a long time since I've read this. So I might get the details wrong. But I believe the first Harry Potter thing that J.K. wrote after all of the books came out for Pottermore then, Wizarding World now, was a little short story about James and Sirius taking the motorbike out for a ride at night and then running into like a Death Eater or some dark wizard or something like that. Something happened. Or maybe it was just police. I can't even remember. I can't remember the details because it's been a minute. Yeah. But something similar of like taking the motorbike out for a joyride and then running into some, trouble.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very James Sirius thing.
It is.
But yeah, so I those are just some kind of comparisons I made with Snape half-hearted, like interrogating them, but just wanting them expelled, really.
Right. Because he probably sees Sirius and James.
But if you're Snape, you know he can't be expelled. As much as you want it, you know that there's more at play here, right? At this point?
Maybe, maybe not. Because we don't know, like, how much Dumbledore
has told him yet?
Right. Has really confided in with him, you know?
I mean, he's told to protect them or watch out for them, right? That's why he's there. That's why he's the one sent out.
Right.
It's like, I mean, there's a purpose why Snape was the one to find them near the Whomping Willow.
Yeah.
It's like, Dumbledore's like, where the hell are these two kids? You.
Right.
Like, go out there and go find them.
Right.
Could have been McGonagall, but wasn't.
No.
Could have been Hagrid, but wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like, which is just an interesting also kind of, because you know Dumbledore trusts McGonagall, and you know he trusts Hagrid, obviously. Mm-hmm. This bond that he places between Snape and Harry, I think, is really, really interesting.
It is, yeah.
That's like, and I know it comes from Lily. Mm-hmm. Everything stems from Lily, but it's just like Dumbledore places an immense amount of trust in, like, because you loved her, you're going to protect him, no matter what.
Right.
So I don't know why Snape is like, let's get you expelled, so I have to watch your butt from like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, that was a really deep, long-rooted way to get to Snape apparently wanting to protect him from, like, across the country.
You know, I wonder too, though, like, is Snape being how he is with Harry also too kind of like a long play like on Boldy?
Oh, as in like
the way that he's treated him, like, do you get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, so twofold. How Snape is treating Harry is like, see, I've treated this kid terribly the entire time. I'm not with him. Right. And then secondarily, it's, and I think Snape plays this card, is I've been at Hogwarts this entire time. I've been like your most valuable plant. Right. Like, I'm in the system. Right. You know, kind of thing.
Right. Like, I've been trying to get him expelled so that you could, you know what I mean, get his clutches. I don't know.
He finds somehow, I'm failing at the moment to remember his creative excuse for why he stopped Voldy from getting the Sorcerer's Stone. Mm-hmm. I'm forgetting his excuse for that at the moment, so apologies for that. Yeah. But that excuse comes way later. Yeah. That's really the only hiccup that I think Snape has. Right. I think he's got a pretty easy excuse for everything else that he does. Right. Minus that, where he had to come up with something. Yeah. But
I may be delving too deep into that, but
no, I think it's fair. Yeah. I think it's a very fair thought of he's aware, because I mean, Dumbledore and him at least had the conversation of like, he's not gone yet. Mm-hmm. He's still around. Mm-hmm. So, and especially after the events of book one. Right. So I think they've probably had a discussion of like, hey, if this happens, this is how you're going to play it. Mm-hmm. Maybe. And Snape's not an idiot either. I mean, as much as people, you know, dislike him or whatever, he's a smart, shrewd, competent dude. So obviously, he knows how to play the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the reading minds thing, he's talented. Right. In both versions of reading minds. Right. So he kind of knows how to play that spy game a little bit.
Right. And too, I mean, I guess it makes it more believable. I'm going real deep into spoilers there. Maybe it makes it more believable too when he kills Dumbledore.
Yeah. Yeah. All these little like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Dumbledore did this again. That's the wrong call. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dumbledore, why would you do this? Right. Kind of questioning him over and over and over again.
Right. I don't know. I still think Snape can be a total jerk.
He's playing his role well.
Yes.
So, you know, again, we've maligned Snape early on. Anna railed me for even defending him a little bit.
I feel like I'm gonna get it now after I was like trying to defend him.
Well, no, I mean,
I'm just trying to figure him out.
no, but I think you're right in that I think he is, to a point, playing a role
Yeah,
as much as he is that person.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
He is that person. Don't mistake what Molly and I are saying.
Mm-hmm.
He has character flaws, and he has issues, and he has things that don't make him a great human being.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Neither of us are saying that. But I think he is playing up some of those traits
Mm-hmm.
to, like you said, play that role
Right.
well
Yeah.
and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Does he like Harry? No.
No.
No, he does not. And like I said when I was defending him on Neville, does he have a tolerance for stupidity? No.
Mm-hmm.
No, he does not. Like, incompetence is a real pet peeve of his. So, and he can't hide that. But that also plays up to his whole indignant role.
Right.
So, is he as horrible and evil as he comes across in these books? No. But that does not mean he's a good or great guy
Mm-hmm.
either.
Right.
Which I think is kind of the point.
Right.
Which makes his character great. I think, objectively speaking, his character is phenomenal because there's a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
Which we can continue to get into.
Right.
We already spent much more time talking about Snape than I thought we were going to in this
No.
spoiler.
I'm interested to hear Anna's take on that.
I'm sure she'll have a take. She'll have a take. Now, it will be interesting because you agree with me. So she
Right?
can't just hate on me.
I know. I have to get myself prepared again.
So the one of the other things that happened in this chapter, when they were continuing to go back and forth to the Burrow to get Fred or George's broom, or something Ron forgot, or something Harry forgot. There were a lot of things.
I think it was the filibuster fireworks.
Yes.
The broom.
Yes, Ron's broom,
No.
or Fred and George both lost individual things.
I think, okay,
I
I'm
can't
trying
remember.
to remember. I think it's George that forgot his fireworks, and I think it's Fred that forgot his broom.
That's fair. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Ginny also leaves something behind.
Yes.
She leaves behind her diary, and I forget the word they used, but she shrieked in the car when she heard or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a very aggressive reaction when she found out.
Yes.
Which, obviously, the diary plays a massive role in this book. And clearly, Ginny has already, in the... this hasn't even been a full month, because they just went to Diagon Alley, presumably, like, a week or two ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that relatively short span of time, she's become very connected to it.
Yeah.
Which is a hint at just how dangerous this object is,
Mm-hmm.
that someone can be so drawn to it so completely, so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm inferring that because I know what ends up happening. If you're reading this for the first time, you're like, oh, she wants to write about her crush on Harry, which is probably true, but
Yes.
there's obviously a more nefarious reason for everything.
I still love the idea of like Ginny just like gushing in her diary of like
You
these,
think she
like,
doodled
preteen-
Harry Potter and Tom Riddle's like, oh my god.
Right? Just like, I feel like you could see him just like, blah, like the vomit face, like.
I imagine a deep eye roll and then I'm like, okay, how can I play this?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's like, oh my god, here we go again. Why is she drawing another lightning bolt on this page? Oh, all right.
Ginny Potter. XOXO.
That made me throw up a little bit in my mouth right there, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to soldier on with this podcast. Anyway, speaking of the Weasleys and Ginny and some Gryffindors, this statement popped out at me too. Gryffindors, when Harry and Ron get back to the common room, everybody's waiting up for them. And there's this explosion of cheering and laughing and yelling about, like, oh my goodness, did you just crash a car into the Whomping Willow? Like, what? Because you know what happens, even though 3 or 4 people knew intimately the details of it, the entire school knew. I don't know if everybody gets the evening prophet at the school. I'm sure maybe some do.
Yeah.
But even if, like, a handful of people get the evening prophet, that whole school knows every detail by the time the feast is over.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'm sure the Great Hall was buzzing.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, they're all waiting up afterwards, and a couple of them, I think it was Dean or Seamus or whoever, one of them, was like, we'll be talking about this for years. And I'm like, normally, you probably would. But in this school, in the time of Harry Potter, this is a mere blip on the radar that I would love to know how many of these students truly were like, remember that night, second year, when Harry crashed a car into the Whomping Willow?
Right.
Or if they're talking about the Chamber of Secrets, or if they're talking about what happened remember the werewolf we had for a teacher? Or 4 or 5 or 6. It's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff where this barely qualifies as a memory. It's like, you know?
Right.
I'm sure I could see, like, sometime in 7, like, in the moments that we don't get in the books, like, someone just being like, remember the good old days when you got pummeled by a Whomping Willow?
Right.
Like, when those were the hard times?
Right.
Or whatever.
Well, do you think that they have Hogwarts reunions? Maybe they bring them.
I hope they do.
Right? Like, do you think they would bring that up at the reunion? Like,
that would be so awesome. I've never thought of that before, but I really love that idea.
Yeah. Like, hey, like, we had all this bad stuff happen, but...
Do you think you get people from other years just trying to go to the Harry, Hermione, Ron reunion just because and trying to get in? I was in your year.
Right?
You remember me, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Things like that, where, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. I really hope that they all have Hogwarts reunions.
Or could you imagine being like Neville teaching herbology?
Yeah.
And just have some idiot, like, second year come through your class talking about whatever drama was going on, and him just like, stop. You don't know what real trauma is, all right? I killed a snake with a sword.
There was a battle.
This wall behind me completely gone.
Right.
I was dropping devil's snare on people. You don't know how many people I've killed, all right? Just Neville.
Right.
Neville alone. Like, oh, that'd be...
Sorry, I'm taking another turn with this. That reminds me of that SNL skit where Harry is like he's just like hanging out at Hogwarts and he's like boasting about like his days. It's like, I think, I'm pretty sure that was an SNL skit.
Well, now you have me. The only Harry Potter SNL skit I can think of was like Jimmy Fallon and Rachel Dratch were Harry and Ron.
Yeah.
Rachel Dratch played Ron.
Yeah.
And Lindsay Lohan was Hermione.
Yeah.
And she was wearing a very low cut shirt. And they're like, hey guys, how was your summer? Oh. Hermione, how was your summer? What happened to you this summer?
That's right.
That was a hilarious skit.
Yes. Yes, we took a turn.
Yeah, we took it. Wow, okay. Yeah,
right.
Another place where I did not expect this to go. But,
yeah.
All right. So that will wrap up our spoiler section. We hope you enjoyed this very entertaining episode. And our random offshoot tangents. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram. We're posting a lot of cool stuff. So engage with us all the time. We want to hear your thoughts. So let us know, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.